Okay, so you might have just heard that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order has been announced today, and the fact that it has been announced to be revealed on Saturday has gotten everyone extremely hyped. The game has been known about for a little while, and other games in the Star Wars franchise have actually been canceled by EA and not even seen to completion. So knowing that this was going to be fully released, that this is actually going to get a reveal, that they were going to go through this, has been something that has not only stirred the community, but also gotten them very excited that it is truly coming. Obviously, after the Battlefront debacle, Battlefront 2, EA had a lot to make up for with the community, but it seems like this is already turning people in the right direction. And Star Wars Battlefront 2, from what I've heard, has already turned itself in the right direction, although that, in terms of the community's idea, has kind of gone out the window. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 things that should make you super hype about this that you may not know that are really setting up the signs for this to be one of the best, if not the best, Star Wars game that's ever been made. And I'm talking about maybe even better than Knights of the Old Republic, and I'll tell you why. Today, let's talk about those reasons, and the first thing is that Apex Legends Respawn, the same studio that developed that game, is developing the Star Wars game. Now, I know this feels like, okay, cool, Respawn, they're just a company. No. They have developed some of the slickest, most action-packed, most smooth-feeling and exciting mechanics in video games to date. If you haven't played Apex, it is amazing. Titanfall 2, people talk about these experiences in this game and that this company hasn't gotten enough love. Well, the love has finally found widespread knowledge in Apex Legends, and the fact that they're bringing that ability to not only, create new mechanics, to be able to create some of the best feeling gameplay out there, but they're putting it into the Star Wars franchise. I mean, now you've got the biggest names in the world in Lucasfilms and movies and games, and now you've got some of the best game developers in the world coming together, and this could be a hit out of the park like we have not seen. I'm really excited for this team, especially after Apex Legends just impressed the heck out of everybody, to do something Star Wars related, because throwing a lightsaber, messing around with that is something that people have imagined since they were kids. The second Star Wars came out, it's a feeling that's almost been impossible to really emulate in games, and we've all been trying to get there. Really shooting a blaster, really having these experiences fighting in space, and the fact is, Respawn seems like the team that can get it done. Their movement is insane in all their games. I'm so excited for that, and that's one reason you really need to be hyped that you may not know. The second reason you may not know you need to be hyped is because not only is Respawn Entertainment's Vince Zampella going to be helping out with revealing this game, and very, very excited hands-on, Stig Asmussen, along with many special guests, are going to be there as well. Now, Stig, if you don't know who this is actually the game director of God of War. Stig actually was able to be a part of the art and environment director on God of War, and now at taking his talents, God of War 3 specifically, which is one of the most favorite games ever, God of War 3 he directed, he's able to take these talents to Jedi Fallen Order, which is so insane. Now you got these guys with a studio that has obviously done amazing things recently in the gaming industry, plus a guy who's a god in himself in creating one of the best games ever. I love God of War 3. So you add that, and you've got somebody who not only now has the technical support in Respawn, but now you've got somebody who knows how to make great games. This is starting to look really, really good. But guess what? If you're a fan of Star Wars, you're saying, but where's my Star Wars OGs? Where's the love? How can I get back to that Knights of the Old Republic? How can I really feel like I've gotten, pulled back into the universe like I was back then? Well, they might just have, Chris Avellone, who's been able to be the writer for Knights of the Old Republic, who was writing this game. Pretty insane, but they actually have taken one of the narrative designer writers for the Knights of the Old Republic and put him on this game as well. So not only will Jedi Fallen Order have the lights out directing, have the lights out team at Respawn, but they'll also have the lights out writing and story development from Chris as well. And I hope I didn't butcher his last name, Avellone. That sounds weak if it's really Avellone and it's not any of those. So I apologize, Chris, if you're watching this for some reason. Anyways, it's really insane because it not only shows you that they have their directing and their vision very, very strongly implemented by someone who's already made a great game, but then they have the ability to implement that asset that's not the technical part, the part that keeps you engaged, the part that makes you feel like this is a Star Wars universe. Now, if you want to know where this game takes place, we do have a little bit of a timeline for this game's release. Apparently, it sets itself to start telling the story around a surviving Padawan shortly after the events of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, the Fallen Order can make you think a lot of different things. People are going to be guesstimating, but we'll find out on Saturday, so there's really not too much point to go into what will actually be the story be about, but it's just something very cool to know. When will the game release? Holiday 2019. That means essentially November, you would assume. Most games don't come out in December, they come out in November, and that's probably what you can expect from this one as well. Moving on to the next reason that I think you should be hyped is that the action of this game is going to be a third-person action game that's going to allow you to be a Jedi and swing those lightsabers, but will there be multiplayer? Now let's look at the history of these studios, and should you be excited about the way they'll implement this game, and does it even matter? One of the things I have to say is that multiplayer would be a really cool thing to add into this game, but it may not actually happen, and I would still be excited about that because we've seen Sekiro and games like that actually prove that you do not need this level of insane replayability for a game to be successful. I mean, Sekiro at the top when it first released was at the top of Steam charts, people were playing it every weekend, and now that people have beat it, it's kind of, people have gone through the playthroughs, the content's kind of started to die out for it. It's just a game that you can go back to and play and have an amazing experience. This is one of those things where if you have a game that can just always be played from start to finish with enough of a good story, like we know Chris is probably going to provide, with enough of a good environment and art and world that we know, Stig is going to help direct, and with enough of a technical feel that it doesn't feel like it's aged so much, where Respawn's going to give you that feel that makes it feel timeless and just so good, then you don't have to worry about having these multiplayer games, because you think of all the best Twitch games, you think of all the YouTube games, it's all games that can just be repeated and replayed and gaining value, or at least maintaining value even without constant updates. That's what multiplayer really is. That's why those are the biggest games that people watch on the internet. So if you could find a game studio to make a game this high quality with this many pieces, you don't necessarily need multiplayer to succeed. And that's a big boon, because not a lot of games can say that, because they don't bring enough of a story mode for people to really be excited about purchasing it if there's not this insane replayability. Something to be excited about. That is not going to happen. However, I would be totally happy if there was a mini modes to do this in. I'd rather them focus on an amazing experience that will take me a long time versus like insane multiplayer. Although multiplayer would be fun. I'd be down for it. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments section below. Now, the last thing that I think you should be excited about, and this one is one thing that I was a little worried about earlier on, is the fact that EA and Star Wars Battlefront 2 maybe canned the idea of this franchise sticking and being accepted from the gaming community. Now, some of you may be those that were hurt by those loot box things, maybe took a strong stand, and at that point and at this point, it is still really cool to hate EA. And I never got involved in that. I never had any reason to. I didn't really play Star Wars Battlefront 2, except for the earlier parts of the, I believe, beta, which is really fun in my opinion. But I never got caught into like buying the game and getting into loot box problems and getting upset about it. But if you don't know, it was the most downvoted Reddit post of all time when they responded to this loot box controversy, saying it gives you a sense of pride and accomplishment. It'll go down in meme history, but it also kind of set the table that not a lot of these things are going to be forgiven anymore by players. But to me, when you look at the response that you're seeing on Twitter, when you look at the response of people making videos, when you look at the response of myself as well, who was just kind of like a general person who didn't really get too attached or too unattached, I was hype. I was excited, and I think people clicking and watching this video are excited to find out more as well, which means that I think that they have actually been able to overcome this on the Star Wars track. Now, the only thing that will make them truly be forgiven, as far as the entire community, even the people who are really mad, right? That's not me, but if there was someone who's really mad, the way they'll be forgiven is if they actually create this great game, and they seem like they're on pace to do so. I mean, if you don't believe me, look at Apex Legends. That was an EA game as well. And look at Anthem. Anthem was also an EA game. What's the difference between those two games and their reception? One was an amazingly polished, amazingly deep battle royale that allows you to apply flexibility and new mechanics to ways you've never played the genre before and kept it fresh for a lot of people. And the other was a game that was, obviously having a lot of issues, and even up until launch trying to find its identity, and didn't truly provide the experience a lot of people were hoping for. really, all that's saying is that if you make a good enough game, it doesn't matter what you've done in your past. People are willing to forgive, and that's a reason to be hyped, because for us all to just say Star Wars is out because EA owns the Lucasfilms license, that would have sucked. Now we can all realize that it's not about that. Maybe they made a mistake, but just like people, we all make mistakes, and we can go back to becoming a better studio if we learn and we try to make amends for what has happened. And I think that's something that EA and Respawn and these guys can prove to, I think, everybody. And I'm not one to be proven to, but I think a lot of people out there are, that they make a great Star Wars game and people are going to be happy about it. That's truly the case, and that's truly something I'm excited about, and I'm really hoping that this game brings together a lot. Now, the last thing I want to say is, do you guys feel like this game is going to be really cool to cover as far as my channel? I'm actually very excited to cover it. If it does come out towards November, I feel like I'll have a little bit of time to be able to play that game, definitely towards the later end of November as well, and kind of showcase some of it. And I'm really excited for a Knights of the Old Republic type experience that'll hopefully give me this story, this kind of loot progression, this kind of like lightsaber feel and duel in this world that I can just feel like I'm truly wrapped up in. If you guys feel that way, if you're that excited, if you like this video, please leave a like and let me know what you think about it. If you did find yourself wanting to say something and I missed something as well, you want to add to the conversation, hit me up with a comment down below. And if you guys, again, want to stay tuned for this, if you want to stay tuned for when I cover it later, if you guys want to watch more Apex and Respawn and things like that on my channel, make sure to subscribe. That is the best way to support me and let me know that you like what I'm doing. All in all, I guess it does tell us that Respawn has probably shifted some of these materials towards getting some more Star Wars people in alignment versus putting everybody on Apex and just sustaining that game. It's a guesstimate. I would assume that that happens somewhere. Maybe it's a whole new team, but it does seem likely given the lack of some of that content. Let me know what you guys think about that one as well. And as always, my friends, remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and I'm sure I will see you all on Saturday.